Wonderful. All right. Very good morning to everyone, and a warm welcome to our course, Business Analytics and Data Science. On behalf of my colleagues Alisa and Wiebke and myself, I'm Stefan Desmond. It's our great pleasure to welcome you to the winter semester 1920, and this teaching in particular. It's our first session, so we will spend a little time on introducing the course, elaborating what you can expect, what we aim at supplying, and then hopefully make the decision that you like that. And once we're done with that, maybe we can also have a little look into actual content. First of all, let me say it's really nice and a pleasure to see once again an enormous amount of students and interest in this teaching. That is very good. I think you made a good decision. The agenda for today, as said, I will very, very briefly talk a little bit about the motivation of the course and give you an overall idea what it is about. And then we cover some logistics that probably interest you. Scope of the lecture, scope of the tutorials. Grading, it's a university lecture after all, so yes, grading and evaluation also need to be discussed, and hopefully very soon we can jump right into a little mini case study where we look into a real-world use case, what business analytics and or data science can be like, and afterwards I'll cover some more foundational parts. All right. Well, first part on the agenda is motivation. Well, you know, whenever seeing a large crowd as today, which as I said I appreciate a lot, I realize that motivation is not strictly needed. Originally, we were trying to come up with a catchy term for the course, and apparently that somehow worked. This is basically the catchy slide to say, oh, please come to BADS, Business Analytics and Data Science. It's super relevant. It embraces numerous technologies or trends, concepts that are extremely popular and relevant today, data science and business analytics, but the course is also very much about machine learning. There are connections even to non-parametric statistics, not to mention about AI, which is then the hip term these days in organizations. And the general idea is to give you a fairly good understanding of these developments, of these concepts. And this is also nicely expressed, I think, by the quote from Hal Varian that you can read up for yourself. Well, he used statistician that in his quote, right? The sexy job in the next 10 years is that of a statistician. Well, let us assume that has something to do with Hal's academic heritage. We could put in some other terms here as well. Machine learner, data scientists, business analysts, all these terms would also fit into this quote, I believe. So feel free to take it a bit more general, and don't worry if your background is not statistics. Well, the more interesting question would be anyhow when he actually said that and how much time is left of these 10 years. But by today's standards, there is very good reason to believe that the trend into data-oriented technologies, such as data science, business analytics, AI, etc., is going to last for at least 10 more years, if not a lot longer. So my hope is that you can get some highly relevant insights for your studies, but also for your future career out of this course, which basically is about decision making. Our focus is always that of business organization trying to do better, trying to serve customers better, or trying to enhance the efficiency of operational processes, trying to do better in any respect. And the way to do better is making better, sounder, more fact-based decisions, or more forward-looking decisions, doing better than competitors in anticipating future trends in consumer behavior, in technology development, etc. So it's always about trying to do better by analyzing all sorts of data that are available. In many of the examples that we're going to revisit, the type of data we look at is past data, but generally the idea of data science or business analytics is to also leverage not only past but current data or novel sources of data, but it's always about data. And this link from some data over all the steps it takes to turn the data into an integrated, clean, and useful data set, to applying some quantitative methods and getting some output from these methods to make a business decision and see its real-world impact. That's basically the scope of business analytics and data science, or from now on, just BADS for brief. About the logistics. It's the foundational course of my chair, our first semester offering. And we strongly encourage students to take this course in their first semester. The main reason we do that is that there are a couple of other interesting teachings available which need the background of this course as basic or as foundation. Let's have a quick look at the content. I think there are basically 3 blocks in the course. The foundational block, which we are in right now, I will introduce you to business analytics, what it is about. We'll talk about business applications, what's the data analytics process model. We'll also look into some foundational aspects of working with data. What do I actually mean when saying carry out an explanatory data analysis? And we also look into the foundations of the type of quantitative or empirical models that we're going to use. In the tutorial, it's mainly about the fundamentals of our programming, data visualizations, and in taking out maybe the first 2 or 3 weeks, we will have a strict equivalence between the lecture and the tutorial. So we do something in the lecture, you get a task that relates to our lecturing topic, you have a week to prepare this task, and then this task for the lecture topic will be revisited in the tutorial. That is the idea. That's how things work. All right. The focus of the course then in block 2 will be on a specific type of models, those that are predictive. So we will focus on supporting decisions that entail some predictive element, forecasting. We talk about forecasting models, predictive models, and this part will cover a couple of weeks, really. So we look at that in quite some detail, going into various algorithms that you can use from simple to cutting edge. And we'll spend a lot of time on adjacent tasks, adjacent to predictive modeling. If you build a model for forecasting, how do you assess this model? What do you need to reliably assess the quality of your model? What type of tuning can you carry out if you realize that the quality is not what you expect? Variable selection, feature engineering, well, maybe these terms do not ring a bell yet. If so, these are just some other steps in a predictive modeling process that you need to address, and we will look at them in the lecture and also in the tutorial. Here, for example, is your first hint to a concrete package that we're going to use. MLR, it's one out of two popular, well, there are many popular machine learning packages available. I should not reduce the list to only two. Maybe I dare say that two are particularly popular. One is MLR, and this is the one we will use. Our reason for using that package, if you wonder, is that the way you use it, the way you program with MLR, is very similar to the most popular data science package in the Python language, which is the other very popular language for data science. And in future or more advanced courses, we use Python. In order to provide you a smooth transition, we use that package MLR. I almost forgot the most important bit. This part will also be concluded by some exercise. More on that in a minute. So there will be an assignment related to this part of the course, the predictive modeling part. And the last part will then basically go back to industry applications and look into specific challenges that arise in business analytics, where we focus on business problems. What you see here, for example, cost-sensitive learning. Maybe you have never heard about that. Why should you? But the term, I believe, already or immediately rings a bell. Okay, yeah, cost sensitivity matters. If I predict what is going to happen in the future, well, forecasts about the future are fairly difficult, right? So probably I will make some errors. What's the cost that I face from these errors? Do they depend somehow on the type of error? You can grasp that this is immediately relevant for business decision making. And this gives you some intuition what the last part of the course will be about. We look into specific industry applications in marketing, some in finance as well, and identify specific requirements and then see how we can address these requirements using standard data science type of technology, or we will also identify where we might need to adjust standard technology in one way or the other to better serve business needs. And marketing is going to be, as said, the most prominent application. So in case you are still making your study plans and wonder what other courses might fit well with this course, offered by the marketing chair Daniel Klapper or Daniel Guhl, customer analytics in particular, this lecture has much synergy with the BADS course. Same with lectures from my colleagues in statistics, Sonja Greven, Nadja Klein, or econometrics. Marketing courses are closely connected from the application perspective. Marketing courses also typically use methods from econometrics, while we use methods that typically come from machine learning. So similar applications, different type of methodology, and statistics, econometrics gives you a better grasp of the methodology that's also used in marketing. So together this gives a very nice package, just in case. My aim is that you have all you need for this exam in the slides. There are great books out there. The slide book that you find on Moodle provides some more recommendations on books that you could consider. Books are extremely useful, obviously, and there are great books out there. If you're interested, get them. If you appreciate some comments, which book might be the best choice for you, feel free to ask me. If however you wonder, do I need to get some book in order to pass the exam and do well in the exam? No, you don't. All you need will be provided by us in the tutorial and in the lecture. And hence some additional material is also available in the slides. If you're interested, use it. If not, feel free to ignore it. If you plan getting one for yourself, I think none of them is available in the library. If you plan getting one for yourself before you spend your precious money, feel very free to ask me for an opinion. I have all these books available, so you could also visit me and have a look prior to getting some. It's useful but not essential. Now, what is essential is this mini assignment, or the official term is special working task. It's a stupid term, really. It's the official bureaucracy type of language, so I've used it on the slides. Essentially, it's a little mini assignment. By moving on to an exam, we will be able to cover concepts that we discussed in the course more broadly and make sure that you understood these concepts and achieved the learning objectives that we want you to achieve. However, an exam will not allow you to do any sort of programming. And of course, I want you to get a good grade, and I want you to get your 6 credit points, but what I really want you to do is learn how to do data science in real life. That's my key objective. You need the understanding from the lecture to achieve that, and you need the skills from the tutorial. There will be a mini assignment where you need to solve a modeling task on your own, an individual assignment. We'll get you some data. You will need to work with that data. You will need to understand that data. You will need to build a model that creates some predictions from that data into the future. And well, the setting will be a kind of simulation. What I mean by that is that the future that you are trying to predict is not the real future. It's the future that we know, it's known to us, so we can validate how well your model predicts. And we will judge you on that basis. We will use Kaggle for that. In case you don't know Kaggle, I invite you to go online and check out the website. It's a beautiful website. They started off as a platform for hosting data science competitions where people can basically compete for money in solving tasks like you will solve in your special working task. They get some data, try to get a good model for that, and will compete with others, and if they do well, win some prize money. Netflix was a famous example to organize such competitions. A couple of years back, they awarded $1 million for a data science team that helped them to improve their movie recommendation engine by at least 10% compared to the internal solution. And this is basically what popularized data science competition, and Kaggle is the leading market player. And by now, it's also a wonderful educational platform. It's one of these places where you get awesome resources, codes, demos, tutorials, how to build models, how to do data science. So it's a very good website to know. We use it for the course. We'll put our data there. You can download it, and you can submit your solutions in the form of predictions that you upload, also via Kaggle, and then we'll judge you, and you get immediate feedback over the platform. It's quite neat. It will be explained in more detail in the tutorial. In a nutshell, you will need to pass a minimum threshold of predictive accuracy. You pass that threshold, you completed this special working task, whatever, and you are, by that, able to complete the module and participate in the exam. Which also implies what is the implication of not meeting the threshold. I.e., by not completing the special working task, you would not be allowed to participate in the exam and complete the module. If this sounds scary, you need to do our programming on your own. If this sounds scary, you should not be scared. Essentially, what you will need to do is take what we teach you in the tutorial, apply that to a new data set. If you follow the tutorial, you'll be fine. Everything you need will be there. For every tutorial task, you'll get solutions. You just use our solutions, adjust them to your new task, you'll be fine. It's not meant to kick people out. Our goal here really is to force, I could use a nicer word like support or so, but ultimately it's about forcing you to follow the tutorial and make sure you're not postponing that to late January or so when the exam approaches. You need to work on that week by week for the tutorial part, and if you do that, you'll be perfectly fine. We will set the threshold such that it's not trivial, but we'll also set the threshold in such a way that by doing exactly what I said, taking our solutions from the tutorial, adjusting them to the new data set, you can pass. It's a competition. We will also announce the winners in the course. Some people really developed, and this is a great pleasure to see some strong ambition here in the past years, where we also did something alike. There were really some people who put an enormous amount of time into this special working task. It's a great way to learn things. So you can do much more than just applying what we teach in the tutorial. If it's all about passing this special working task, you won't need to do much more, but you will need to follow the tutorial closely, make the homework, and make sure you're on board and not lagging behind. In the tutorial we use R. Your submission for the special working task will be in the form of a text file that you upload with case IDs and predictions. This is text, and you can use any tool you like in theory. All right, I'm aware of the fact that many of you have a very impressive background in these type of concepts. However, again, my focus in this week really is to get everyone started, no matter what prior experiences have been made or have not been made. So let's look at a little example. What one flavor of business analytics could be like. And the example I picked is that of Schufa. Does anybody vaguely know what Schufa is? I know that Schufa knows a lot about everybody of you. Just want to make sure it's the other way around as well. It's the leading credit bureau in Germany. They market risk assessments of business organizations and individual level customers to support financial institutions, mainly lenders, but not only, judging whether an organization or a customer is creditworthy. This is a screenshot of their website, which is already quite interesting if we look at it. Knowing what you can expect is one of the big letters you see on their slider. Schufa, transparency and safety, is the other big statement that really jump at you when you access their website. In my opinion, credit bureaus like Schufa or FICO, Experian, there are many. This is just the biggest one in Germany, where we are located, right? They are analytics powerhouses. They really are, but unlike those players that you would immediately think of, if I ask you, who in your opinion is a leading player in data analytics? I didn't ask you. Maybe I should have done, but I would imagine that names like Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft pop up. And clearly they are, no doubt. So I deliberately picked a case that is a little bit less obvious. However, these credit bureaus are analytics companies for sure. Let's look a little bit on what they're doing. I know that many of you, probably all, have some understanding what a credit bureau is doing, or more, maybe you have been in contact with Schufa in one way or the other. Maybe you needed to provide a Schufa score of yourself upon renting a flat in Berlin, which is anything but easy. So you will have probably been asked for some certificate by your landlord. How would you describe the business model of a credit bureau or the business model of Schufa in particular? What's their business model? Impress me with your managerial abilities. Business model should be like pressing play. Please, part of a business model is the revenue model. So they sell, let's say, risk related info. Let me abbreviate that. Perfect. And I love the other part that you said. They gather information for free and then sell it for a price, which is a very clever business model if you think about it. If you are able to do something like that, you'll be fine. All learning goals achieved. Let's look into that in a bit more detail. what actually is it that they sell? They sell a score which embodies information. What does this score tell us? We had, let's go back one bit. We had this slide, right? Knowing what you can expect. We can take that as one of their mission statements. This embodies an element about prediction, and your description already embodies this element as well. The credit score, you were saying, which captures whether somebody will repay a bill in the future. Which is true, embodies the element of prediction, but the credit scores also embodies whether somebody is trustworthy. As a matter of fact, that really is a mission statement that you find on the Schufa website in a prominent place. We create trust. That's what they say. This is their mission statement. Every company has a mission statement. That is the statement of Schufa. We create trust. Mission statements are always big. This is no exception. This is the promise that they make by providing these credit scores. Okay, let's not spend too much time on that. What I was getting at, you were perfectly correct in your intuition what a credit score is. If we would want to dig yet deeper, repay a bill, from an algorithmic perspective, this is ill-defined. What does it mean? This is why I was saying I don't understand it. Point I was trying to get at here is that this is basically our understanding. If we, I said there are analytics companies, they use algorithms. They use algorithms to turn data into these scores, which is an important lesson in its own right. To do so, we would need to be more concrete. Repay a bill in the future is ill-defined from an algorithmic point of view. What do you mean by saying in the future? And what do you mean by repay a bill? And so what is important here is that the notion of what is creditworthy in the opinion of Schufa or a credit bureau depends on an underlying definition of default, which few people know. I'm not surprised that nobody came up with that. A standard definition of default, for example, in the banking sense would be if you have an installment credit or if you have a credit card. A standard definition of default would be you are late with your repayments by 3 months or 90 days. That's the standard definition. Banking regulations allows you some flexibility in defining what you see as a default, something between 90 and 180 days late with repaying an obligation. For example, your credit card bill. That is the default. 10 days late is not. Or maybe if you are not a regulated company like a bank, but other kind of lender, and you are fully free to decide what you see as a default event, again, you will have to define that. And algorithms need this precision. So the risk-related info that they sell is a credit score, which translate into a probability. I abbreviate that by P, P of default, indeed. And this probability is grounded, let's say, on a specific definition of a default event. So in case you are sometimes late with repaying some debt, since we don't know what Schufa is doing internally, we can't really judge how much this is going to hurt. Is there a linear relationship between how late we are with repaying and how much our score decreases, or is there not such linear relationship? That is, something internal at the company. What is important here is really this is their service offering. They sell commission-based or pay-per-use based. They have different payment methods, risk-related information in the form of credit scores. They have this type of format at a probability scale. So it's actually not the probability of default, but it's inverse. Higher scores are better risks. This is just a standard practice in industry, to be more positive probably. And these credit scores are widely used. Also note that this categorization is something that you can find in their papers. It's entirely judgmental. Where is the threshold 97.5 coming from? We don't know. We could guess it has something to do with normal distribution, but really we don't know. Anything less than 50, critical credit risk. So this is like a dark red flag. Don't lend money or don't do business with this company or with this person. Where is this threshold coming from? Why is it not 60? It's entirely judgmental. But this is the type of product or service they offer. And these services are widely used, as said. Bank accounts, car financing, renting a flat is the use case that you will be most familiar with, I believe. Probably this maybe was the first occasion where you needed to provide a Schufa scoring. And what I want to discuss next is, now we know what they are selling. We know these scores. What is the role of such a score in decision making? So you are a landlord. There is some nice young student approaching you, aiming to rent your flat while studying in Berlin, and you ask for the Schufa score because you don't know this person and you want to establish some sort of trust, which is the higher level service Schufa promises to offer. What's the role of this risk-related information in your decision-making process? It's one factor, you're saying. You're saying if you think of it as a decision model, there will be one ingredient in that model. So if I'm trying to picture what you say, then we could say there is some decision, and the decision would be pretty much the last or second to last step in a decision-making process, which is a chain of steps. And in our setting, and in many settings, and in all examples in the course, or almost all, the decisions we look at are binary, which might look a little bit simplistic, but binary decision problems are extremely generalizable. So the decision is often a yes-no type of decision, like, do I give the student my flat, ? Do I give the loan? Do I offer the lease? Do I not? Many relevant decision problems can be framed as a binary yes-no type of question. And then you were saying, so this decision, I make it as the landlord, and in this decision, I basically consider certain factors, which is the score, and there are others. Obviously, if with your flat, you will basically consider what's your personal impression of the person. Maybe you would consider what actually is it she or he is studying. Physics, oh great, that's a smart person. Philosophy, maybe not. Maybe Schufa has accounted for that already. Multiple factors. And then if we follow that approach, you aggregate all these factors somehow. Could you say how? Difficult, right? The aggregation of all these factors, how that works is difficult. But somehow we manage to do that and then make a judgment, yes or no. Well, the score is one ingredient. We might consider it as an objective ingredient. So the possibility is it's an input to I call that a mental decision model. What other possible roles could a score take? Maybe you renting out your flat is a bad example. What other decision or roles a score could take? Let's say credit card business. Think of a credit card business. You apply for a credit card with some bank. What is the role of the score in the decision-making process in my setting? It could act as a threshold, you think. things can be simple. Sometimes things are simple. The special working task assignment is an example. Things are simple. You're above the threshold, you're fine. You're below the threshold, you're in trouble. So the score could basically be equivalent. In an extreme setting like this one, the score could be equivalent to the actual decision. It could basically represent the decision. And you could see these two examples as, you know, bits of a continuum that can be mixed form. A score could take a large role in a decision, but you might consider some other factors. If you consider a multitude of other factors, there would be one extreme where the score is 1. Then the score is basically aiding your decision making, but it's aiding your decision making. The main responsibility is with you, while in the other extreme, like the standardized created product example, the score represents the decision. Or well, maybe it's the score plus the threshold that together represent the decision. This is a useful distinction. Schufa doesn't care how people use the scores. As long as they buy them, Schufa's happy. So they support a range of different decision settings. For bank accounts, it's probably something threshold-based, or it's more like a threshold-based decision. For car financing, it's less of a purely threshold-based decision compared to opening a bank account. If you want to lease a car, your driving experience should play a role, and that might not be perfectly reflected in your Schufa rating. So car financiers would consider that in addition. For consumer credit, you buy an expensive TV at Amazon and decide to finance that, paying a monthly rate. That's a fairly programmatic decision. Score would be close to the final decision. Same with a mobile phone contract. There are maybe some other red flags. You fail to provide a valid ID, you don't get your SIM card. But other than that, unless you have a bad credit history which prohibits you getting the SIM card, you will get it. It's a very standardized process, so the score will have a major influence on the decision. And without really knowing it, we were looking into two fundamentally different and equally important areas of decision support. The normative decision support, where our model output, in this example the score, makes the decision, or to a large extent, and the more, well, the non-normative type of decision support, where the score provides information, which together with other factors influences the decision, which however is made by the human and not by a machine. These two distinctions are important, and they will also determine the agenda of the course. They implicitly do it. We haven't really yet stressed how, but this is really important. How does it work? One final last quote of this case study. Our score calculation methods have been developed by our experienced mathematicians and statisticians. The method used is called logistic regression, which is a well-founded mathematical-statistical method tried and tested in practice for a long time for the prediction of risk occurrence probabilities. So they use a very well-known technique. So what I'm trying to say is this is probably not cutting edge. That is not what people envision when they talk about AI and what AI can do for us. Logistic regression is still the gold standard in industry when we talk about scoring. One of the most popular methods that exists in industry. So it's not bad. I'm not. Don't get me wrong here. It's not a critic that they should use something more sophisticated. No. The point is they use a fairly standard type of technique, which is interesting from a business perspective, though they don't leverage something really fancy, let's say deep convolutional neural network, buzzword bingo time. right? Super fancy. Okay, for the experts, you could do more than that even, but they don't leverage some really cutting-edge AI type of technologies to produce their scores, although there is evidence that these type of novel algorithms predict the future more accurately than a vehicle like logistic regression. They don't use that, and they still play a major role in the market. Any thoughts why they're not worried that competitors might embrace novel technologies and thereby pushing them out of the market? They use an absolute vanilla type of technique. It's super standard, it's super basic, invented in 1930 or so, in terms of the algorithmic. But they are an analytics powerhouse, and the reason is really they are the ones sitting on all that data. And if we look a bit more detailed into the data, their privileged position is that they gather payment information from a large number of connected companies. If you fail to repay a bill on your credit card, your bank will know, and they will get at you. Your car financer might not know. And your prospective landlord clearly will not know that. But sitting in a spider web, if you wish, right in the middle, pulling the information from the various connections, which are affiliated companies that become a partner, share payment data with Schufa. They sit on a big pile of data and have a holistic picture of the individual customer and his or her payment behavior, and that is their asset. And that is an important lesson. So it's the data, then comes logistic regression, then comes the score. And the key asset really, and I wanted to really put some time on this example because that is a very generalizable lesson to learn. The value is in the data. Google is not in the position where they are because they have the smartest people on the planet. Maybe they do, together with some others. But their core asset is the power of data they sit on. The analytic excellence, the know-how, the statistical experience and excellence. Yes, that's crucial, okay. But there is reason to believe that this is going to be commoditized early enough. Time's up. Just to quickly summarize the lessons, the take-homes from the case study. Schufa is a company, they aggregate information, and this is how they create their database, and this is where the values is sitting. And if we think about a process perspective, by buying their scores, decision makers can bypass this costly information gathering to some extent. That's part of their business strategy. What we did not elaborate, but I will go back to that, and I want you to take that with you and think about it. These scores are especially useful for routine type decisions. Well, we did look into that in some bit. This example was the standardized credit card, very routine type of setting. We can automate the decision using the score. The more routine a decision, probably the more useful or more efficient, let's say, are scores. And scores are for now our example for analytic capabilities. And we have also seen that these scores emerge from some type of statistical model. We will spend a lot of time looking into statistical models. Logit is just one early example, but you have already seen their role in an analytics process. It's after the data is there. And then the model is something you apply. Well, and to learn more on this applying bit, the tutorial would be an excellent place. Make sure to attend today's tutorials. You'll find in the literature section a couple of papers. These two are a useful read to better understand analytics. Some slides I skipped, not to worry. We'll look at them in the next week. And with that, have a good day ahead. And I look forward to see you next Wednesday.